Yo, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to a new edition of Yo, it's the Kicks. And I got a dope guest here today. Got my main man, Malcolm Douglas. And we're going to talk about everything revolve around the sneaker culture, but specifically, from Nashville, Tennessee. So we're going to talk about the history of the sneaker and fashion culture in Nashville. I met Malcolm. It was an event that I was part of, man. Shout out to the Dope Shit Only crew. Shout out to TK. Shout out to Doc, everyone who was a part of that event. We was on the panel talking about the fashion sneaker culture just in Nashville, man. So it was an honor, to sit aside from Malcolm, man. And he showed me love ever since then. So welcome everyone to Yo, it's the Kicks, Malcolm Douglas, man. How's everything going,
Everything is
bro?
good, man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, most definitely, man. Most definitely. I want to go ahead and go right in, man, and talk about, man. I'm gonna talk about the 80s, man. The 80s was an amazing
Oh
time
yeah. Oh
in
yeah.
fashion and sneakers,
Yes, it
the
was. It
80s,
was.
man.
It was the start of a lot of things. A lot of things.
Yeah, the start of a lot of things. You're right, man. So much stuff was going on in the 80s. Hip hop, I mean, everything, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Man, I want to talk about like growing up in Nashville. Describe how that was, man. Just that
Um.
intersection of, sneakers, hip hop,
Okay.
fashion, all of
So,
that in the 80s.
my introduction to the sneaker culture began with my older brother. His name was Gregory Douglas.
Mhm.
God rest his soul. But um, he introduced me to, the first sneakers that we were actually introduced to were Converse and Pro Kids. You know what I'm saying? And so
Okay.
back then, it was a thing to, because they were canvas, you had to keep them clean and everything. You know what I'm saying? So that was the start of my um, journey in the sneaker culture. And then, as far as hip hop, I was introduced to hip hop in actually 1979. I was introduced to
Mm,
it through the music of Rapper's Delight. But
that was the light.
as time progressed, what I'm saying, I began to like go to all these different parties and stuff like that. And I used to see dudes that were doing street dancing and DJing and MCing. So from a Nashville perspective, that's what introduced me from 1979 up until like 1981. And so, man, and then I really got engulfed into the hip hop culture after I saw movies like Wild Style and Style War, the documentary Style Wars. Man, just a lot of different things, and I got really engulfed into it. And then, of course, when you get engulfed into that, then you get engulfed into the fashion. And so I was introduced to the hip hop fashion by different sneakers and different things as far as nameplates and name belts
Yeah.
and four finger rings and what I'm saying,
Four
and
finger
denim with graffiti on
rings.
them and things like that, because at that time there was no so-called hip hop brands. There was none. We did
Yeah.
everything on our own, and I was also a graffiti artist as well. So, it was a lot of things, man, that really Nashville was really at one point kind of like at the forefront of the hip hop
Mm,
thing, because we embraced the whole culture. We just didn't embrace just the music or the MCs or the DJ.
mm.
We embraced everything, the dance, the visual aspect of graffiti, the voice of hip hop, which was the MCs, the music, and the sound of hip hop, which was the DJ. So, we embraced everything at that time.
Yo, man, I love to hear that perspective though, Malcolm, because that's something that we really don't hear about, like far as with that time frame in Nashville. I feel like, and like you
No,
mentioned, like Nashville embraced all of that.
yes, we did. We embraced it all, man. And I mean, I was before I was anything, I was a b-boy at first. So I embraced
Yeah.
the breakdance culture of hip hop. And once again, I was an artist in high school, so I actually embraced the graffiti art as well. And then later on, I got interested into the DJ part. But that got kind of expensive, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I just said, I'm gonna stick to the art and I'm gonna stick to the b-boy stuff, because that was something that was a
Yeah.
natural talent for me. But and then my other friends, man, they embraced the music and they embraced being MCs.
Yeah.
TK was, a lot of people don't realize that TK was actually an MC once. He was one of the best in
I
that.
didn't know that.
Yeah, he was one of the best in
Damn.
Nashville. And because of his experiences outside of Nashville, that's why he
Yeah.
embraced the business of
Yeah.
of hip hop and so but yeah, TK was a dope MC, man. He was a dope MC. And and I actually managed him at one time. So, man, it was a thing.
That's
Yeah,
history.
it is, man, because
Yeah.
we
That's
not only
history.
did we embrace the culture of hip hop, but we also embraced the business of hip hop as well.
The
Yeah,
business.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I got more into fashion, which we'll talk about that a little later. But I got more into the
Yeah.
fashion because that was just my thing. That was my thing. So
Yeah, and it's so much rich history when it comes to that in Nashville, just when it comes to the hip hop elements, and that's so much information, man, for a lot of our viewers watch that didn't know about that. When you think about the
yeah,
elements, you said the b boy, you got the graffiti, all of that is like the
yeah.
the part of the four elements of hip hop, and that was
It
going
really is,
on in the
man. It
city.
really is.
So that's really
And
dope.
a lot of people will argue that knowledge is a part of the elements as well, and it
Yeah.
is now. But the only reason why it was added is because at some point in time, you could have knowledge yourself through hip hop,
Mm,
through MCs, and so that's why knowledge was added. But the first four elements were
mm,
MCs, DJs, b boys, and graffiti artists. That was the
yep.
foundation of all this hip hop stuff. And I actually was I had a chapter of Zulu Nation here in Nashville, and so that
Damn.
consisted of me and my friend. Yeah, man, I was
Yeah.
really, really, really like embracing that
Yeah.
whole culture, man, because it actually saved my life,
Yep.
and so, man, for me not being in, me not really embracing a street aspect, I wanted to really embrace
Mm,
hip hop. You know what I'm saying? My brother and them,
yeah.
they were doing all that stuff. They were all in the streets, man, but I didn't want to do that, just
Yeah.
by watching and looking and seeing what came of it. You know what I'm saying? I want to
Yeah.
embrace hip hop. And so that was a very, very moving and driving force for me. And so that's why we had Zulu Nation here in Nashville, and
Mm,
we had a collective of everything that involved hip hop. We had b boys, we had MCs, we had DJs, we had graffiti writers, we had all of that. It didn't last a long time because, as you get older, man, life sets in. You know what I'm
well,
saying?
no, I
So
agree with that for real.
yeah, life sets in. So, man, but at the time that we had it, man, we enjoyed it, man, and we were just,
Yeah, that's
we
dope,
loved
man.
it dearly. Yeah, we loved it dearly. So,
Man, the '80s, man, the '80s, man. So much dopeness, flyness, man. When it comes to the just the culture overall, and it's still
oh yeah,
influencing to this day. Still
oh yeah,
influencing so many people to this day, man. When it
it
comes to
it it really
the
does. It really
sounds
does.
and everything. Yeah.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
now we transition to the '90s now, Malcolm. So
All right, all
I mean,
right.
which was amazing time. Which was amazing time. The '90s influenced me so much. So describe that aspect, man, that era, because I feel like that era stands out so much, man, because of the originality and creativity.
um, so I want to say the reason why the '90s stood out is because of
Describe the '90s, man. How that
the '90s stood out so much because now you're dealing with innovative people who are creating these brands. Um, the music got different. Um, the dance was different. Now you're incorporating a lot of different producers in the '90s, and man, it all
uh,
goes around to the hip hop culture, and so now these these people that are involved in the business of hip hop. Now they're understanding that, okay, fashion, music, visuals, everything can be monetized. Once they're monetized, they're not it's not a neighborhood thing anymore. It's a
Yeah.
global thing. You understand what I'm
Yep.
saying? So uh in Nashville, we were really so I worked at a place called Sam's Clothing Store. And Sam's was very unique back in the 90s because there was no store like it. In the early
None.
90s, there was
That's
no
true.
store like it.
That's
And
so
when I
true.
tell you that at first, when I first came to Sam's, there were only two brands that was in there, and that was Pele Pele, and I want to say maybe I think it was maybe Carl Kanai. And so
Okay.
and so at that point, and I got the job just because how I looked, and I didn't look like I was from Nashville, man. I looked like I was a New York kid, and I wasn't. I
Yep.
wasn't. Man. When I walked in the store, I think I had like a white tee on. Uh, I had some. I think I had some army pants, like some cargos. Had some army cargos. Had some tan army cargos. Had a tan army hat. And had some white Air Force Ones. And they looked at me and they was like, "Where you from?" I said, "I'm from here." And so at that point, they knew that I was, I dressed differently. And if they could go in that
Mm-hmm.
direction, if they could go in that direction of kids dressing differently, because at the time, like I said, it only had two hip hop brands. Now, Sam's at one point, that's where you would go and get suits and dress up, and you put on your gaiters and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, that
Yep.
was an actual way that we used to dress up and go out and do things like that. But the times were changing because of the 90s. That's when you got a lot of different,
Mm-hmm.
kids was wearing jeans, and even older cats was wearing jeans and stuff and sneakers to the
Mm-hmm.
club. And so the fashion and everything totally just switched. And man, it was more. That's when you started just the real part of the sneaker culture. That was the real super change, because now not only are you getting Jordans, you're getting Air Maxes, you're getting all these different types of shoes from
Yes.
Nike. And then with Adidas, you're getting all these different shell toe Adidas. And you're getting your different basketball shoes from Adidas. And then you're getting stuff that's coming out like Saucony and Fila,
Yes.
and man, just
Yep.
all different types of sneakers, and British Knights, Troops, just all that stuff, man, was
Nice.
coming out,
Yep.
man, and really, really kind of you know, now it's coming to the forefront because of hip hop.
Yes.
And so that was the whole thing as far as the 90s, man. The 90s were a time where people weren't scared to wear different stuff
Mm-hmm.
instead of your staple
That's
things.
true.
You know what I'm saying? Man,
Yep.
it was all about being different. It was all about being different.
That's so
And
true.
it was and you didn't want to. And it's a term that we used to use back then. It was called biting. You didn't want to bite nobody else's style,
Yep.
so
You
you
don't
wanted
want
to
to do
be
that.
totally different from everybody else, man. So if you stepped in the club, everybody got on Run DMC Adidas, and you come through with the feelers. Yo, man, you just different. You know what I'm saying? People
Yep.
respected that, bro. They
Yep.
respected it. It
Respected
wasn't
that.
like, you didn't look like everybody else, man. You look totally different. And that's what I loved about the 90s.
Different.
It was very, very
Man,
experimental, but influential.
I love that aspect though, Malcolm, that you just mentioned, like different creative, because that was
Yes.
social. That made a nice stand out because people wasn't scared to wear what they want to wear. People was wearing cross colors.
Yes.
You can have car canal.
Yes.
You can have, what I'm saying? They was throwing a lot of different stuff on in the 90s. And I think a big part of that too as well, going back to hip hop, because you had so many different groups, artists
Mm-hmm.
that was different,
Yeah.
and I feel like so many people listen to so much different stuff. I know growing up in my household, I remember hearing Cool Daddy
Oh
Fresh.
yeah.
I remember hearing 3 6
Oh yeah.
Mafia,
Yeah.
Kingpin
Yeah.
Skinny Pimp.
Absolutely.
Then also,
Absolutely.
hearing Nas,
Yeah.
hearing Jay, Biggie, Tupac. I'm like, all these different artists,
Yeah.
like I'm hearing 8 Ball MJG,
Yeah,
like,
man.
I'm like, so, and that was the 90s. You
Yes.
heard all of that. And I think we seen that in fashion too, man. And I feel like that's something that's missing right now. Like, I
Absolutely.
feel like it really is.
Absolutely. I'm still in the fashion business. I run a little store out in Clarksville, Tennessee. It's called Urban Trends. And,
Okay.
I noticed that now, man, everything looks the same. I hate to say
Yeah.
it, but it's the
Yeah.
truth. Everything kind of looks the same. Everything's got its own little twist on it. But, I can remember back in the 90s, man, Carl Kanai, okay, you had of course, you had Carl Kanai by Carl Kanai. And man, his whole line was dope. But
Yes.
then you had a line maybe by Mecca, which is Tony Shelman.
Mecca.
Tony Shelman, his line was totally different. And his line reminds you of what today is like, maybe like Nike Tech and stuff like that. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? And you're talking about 30 years ago. You know what I mean? Like 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So once again, man, it's like 360 degrees, man. It all goes back
Yep.
around. It just got its own little twist on it. But I'm telling you, man, Mecca was a really, really, really dope
Mecca.
line, man. And it came out of
It
Washington
was.
State. Who would have thought? You know what I'm saying? It came,
I didn't even know that.
yeah,
I didn't even know
yeah.
that part
Tony
right there.
Shelman was from Washington State, and he moved to New York, and he just he came up with this line, and it was really nice. So
Yeah.
it's just so many things, and then you got Maurice Malone out of Detroit. Maurice
Ooh,
Malone,
Maurice
yo
Malone.
man,
Yep.
who would have thought from a little small a spot that he had that dope ass line would come from that. And then on top of that,
Yep.
you had all these MCs that used to go when he closed shop, he would open the back of his shop and throw these parties. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
All this stuff, brother, is in the 90s. You know what I mean? So
In the 90s.
all this stuff, man, was just it was so creative. It was so groundbreaking. It was just everything, man. And to just kind of sit around and even witness it all. And man, dude, even though we weren't there, we were there. You know what I'm saying? Because
We were
it
there.
was in
Yep.
that era, and we got to witness a lot of things that came good from our sneaker culture, our fashion culture, and from hip hop as a culture in the whole. So it was great. It was awesome.
Yeah, that's one thing you mentioned is the creativity,
Yeah,
right? And originality. For example, Malcolm, I had a situation. Shout out to my homie E. We went to the Brooklyn Bowl event. The Brooklyn
yes,
Bowl event.
yes,
Shout out to the legendary
yeah,
Spitter.
yeah.
They had an event that was dope. So when we get there, we both pulling up at the same time. He hop out as well. I hop out. I look down on his feet. I see he got the Bo Jacksons on, the SC
Yeah,
trainers,
yeah.
the orange and blue joints, the Arbin colorway on my feet, and
Oh yeah,
it
yeah.
almost got to a point, Mac. I almost drove back to the crib and changed shoes. Like that's how it almost got to that point,
Yeah,
man.
no
I'm like,
doubt.
yo, man. I was like, nah, man. You could have called me, told me or something, But it just going back to be you wanna be the only person in the spot rocking a particular, item, a
Absolutely.
sneaker. You know what I'm saying? So that's just how
Yeah,
it goes.
yeah.
So that aspect when you mentioned that, man. So
Absolutely,
yeah,
man.
and
Absolutely.
man,
I mean,
yeah. Go ahead, go ahead.
no, no, no. I was just gonna say, back then, man, we would do the same thing, man. And if we walk in as a crew,
Yeah,
nobody's the same, brother. Nobody's the same. Everybody got on different stuff, and we didn't want to, look like everybody. So I get it. I understand.
everybody.
I really do, man. I understand, man.
Yeah, that's how it be. That's how it be, Malcolm. And man, perfect segue, man,
Yeah,
into Sam's, man, because man, you worked at Sam's. You did a lot at the store, man, and helped transform it into world with those other brands, man, with your ear to the streets and stuff like that, man. Because growing up, Malcolm, man, when I heard about Sam's, my brother used to go up to Nashville because he's 10 years older than me.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
and he used to see a lot of stuff up there. He was like, hold on, like that you see like north, you will see,
Yeah.
out west or something like that, or other major markets
Mm-hmm.
as well. And Sam's was one, if not the only store at that time in those early 90s that had access to that, man.
Yes.
And so many
Yes.
different
Absolutely.
brands when it comes to Jordans, when it comes to, they had a
Yes.
variety, man, when it comes to a lot of
Yes.
the urban wear. Um,
Yes.
man, talk about just the being at Sam's, man, because that was the centerpiece, Malcolm. I feel like, man, and
Yeah.
just
It was.
having
It
everything.
was. So when I first got there, um, once again, like I said, they noticed that I dressed differently.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't dress like everybody that was, in Nashville. And so I can remember this distinctly. Um, the gentleman who still owns it to this day, his name is Stan Landau. Stan said he was going to
Okay.
go to Vegas for the magic show. I said, "What's the magic show?" I didn't know, man. I'm just not getting into fashion. This is 1994. This is 94. And I'm just not getting into the fashion. He said, "Well, it's the show where we go and we buy all these clothes and we do it in 6 months ahead of time." So at that
Okay.
point, they were getting ready to go and look at the fall stuff. I said, "Hey man, if I give you a list, can you get some of these, things in?"
Mm-hmm.
So he was like, "Well, I'll look at them and give them a shot." And I can't remember exactly what was on the list, but I probably named out probably about, I don't know, maybe 10 lines. And
Mm-hmm.
man, come time of delivery, all 10 lines were delivered. And so um, he was like, I went to when he got back, he said, "Hey, I um I went to those people that you told me about. And man, I really, really liked the stuff that they showed." And I said, "Well, what all are you getting?" He said, "I'm getting everything you put in the list for me." I said, "Oh man, that's great." And so we got them in, and it was a hit. I mean, almost instantly, it was a
Mm-hmm.
hit. And man, we were selling that stuff left and right, man. I mean, dude, it was an amazing time, and it was crazy because, as you know, even to this day, downtown's parking is horrible. It's
It's
horrible.
terrible. It's terrible.
It's terrible. But
It's
man,
terrible.
we would have. I'm not lying to you, man. I would have dudes call me on the
Yeah.
phone, and they'd be like, "Hey, man, what new do you have?" And and I
Yes.
tell them, and I'd send them. At the time, we didn't really have like, you couldn't really send pictures at the time. So I let them know what we got, and they say, "Hey, man, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pull up. I'm gonna jump out the car."
Yep.
And yo, just have it out for me, and I'm gonna see what I got, see what y'all got. So man, dude, that was stuff that we used to do. And
Yeah.
then, you know, I would have friends that would come in from out of town because I had friends from everywhere, all across the
Mm-hmm.
country. And man, dude, sometimes and don't get me wrong, they was involved in street culture because at that time
Yep.
then I got involved in it,
Yeah.
because retail at this point really wasn't paying the bills. So, I did what I had to
Got you.
do. But
That's
but
true.
um man, dude, I would have friends that I knew from different places around the country that would do business in Nashville. Yo, they'd be like, "Yo, what you got?" "Hey man, just come up here, man. I'll show you everything new that we got in." Man, dude, they come in, man, they spend thousands of dollars, man. And Sam's at that
Mm-hmm.
point, I can remember Christmas time. Sam's was so popular at Christmas time. And this is not, I am
This
not
was
kidding you,
very
man.
popular.
If you've ever been in Sam's, you know that building is not super big. It's not big at all.
It's
It's like
not. It's not.
it's just straight back. You go straight back. You're looking at, maybe 10 racks on one side, maybe 6 racks on the
Mm-hmm.
other. You got a wall full of shoes. You got a wall full of dress shoes, wall full of sneakers and boots and everything else. And dude, when I tell you Christmas time, man, before Christmas hit, man, that place would be so damn packed, man. And dude, and it got to the point where we just couldn't even help nobody. We just be like, "Hey, what you
Yep.
need? What you need? What you need?" We go back and get it, or they just pick it up off the rack. Dude, they get in line, they go buy it. But
Go
it got
buy
to
it.
the point like that, man, and you know, um, And another thing I want to mention, man, like they stopped going, they stopped going to the magic shows. And the reason why they stopped
Mm.
going to the magic shows is because we started getting salesmen and representatives for all these different lines that we held. They were in Nashville. So what's the point of going to the magic show when you got the guy coming into the store
Yep.
and you got two of your best employees, which was me and a lady named Doris Tucker. Doris Tucker is still there. We call her Dot.
Okay.
And we would sit down with all these representatives, dude, and we just pick what we wanted. We just pick and
Man.
say, "Hey, man, let's do this. Let's do that one. Let's do that one." And then we do the we do the first pick, and then he would say, "Okay, I can't buy all of this. So what is the most important stuff?" And then we pick the most important stuff, and he'd be like, "Cool." And dude, we would have that maybe 3 times a month.
Man, that's yo, and I think Malcolm, just that history that you just mentioned, man. A lot of people who was born after that particular era
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
know how special Sam's was, man. Because I grew up in Columbia. We came down here from Flint, Michigan, right? So
Mm-hmm.
my brothers when they found out about Sam's, it
Oh
reminded
yeah.
them of spots in Michigan,
Oh
in
yeah.
Detroit,
Yeah.
in Flint,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I remember my brother coming back fresh, fly, man.
Absolutely.
Having the Pele Pele joint, having,
Oh yeah.
all the
Oh yeah.
different joints, man, that you will see,
Yeah.
in a Detroit, or somewhere like that, man. And I used to hear about that so much, Sam's, man. I went up there as a kid, and I was
Yeah.
like, it you just felt the history going inside, man. I'm like, damn,
Oh
I'm in
yeah.
Sam's for the first
Yeah.
time. You know what I'm saying? And my dad went up. My dad took me up there and got a suit, got some suit, and
Yeah.
some nice gaiters. You feel me? And I'm looking like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
damn, they got this and that. You feel me? So
Yeah.
sales, man, the impact that it had on just in the South, not even the South though, Malcolm, just worldwide, like you mentioned, like because you had people from out of town coming
Yeah.
to Sam's. You had
Absolutely.
celebrities. You had celebrities coming
Yes.
to Sam.
Yeah.
Like that was
Yeah.
like the first
Oh
store
yeah.
of its kind. I feel like in Nashville, like
Yeah. Oh
it's
yeah.
so much dope stuff, man.
Yeah, man. I can remember one time we showing up to work, me and Doris, we showed up to work one Saturday morning, and we noticed this car with dark tints pulling up, and kind of like it's just sitting there. So, we looking because the gate is down. We looking, we like, what's going on? And so our boss comes in, he opens the gate, and we get everything ready. We start cutting on the lights and vacuuming the floors and everything. So this one guy, and he's a big dude, man. He comes in, he's looking around, and I say, "Hey man, can I help you?" And he's like, "I'm just checking to see if there's a lot of people in here." So my first thought went to, "Oh man, this
Mhm.
dude trying to rob us." You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
and I'm sorry, it was just me. I'm from the streets, man.
No,
So I know what's
for
going on.
real.
So I'm like, "Hey man,
Yeah.
we might want to watch out." And dude, in walks Master P. And basically
What?
what he was, yeah, in walks Master P. So basically what this dude was doing was just coming in to see if it was anybody in here that's gonna give him some
Yep.
problems or anything. But dude comes in, man, and I didn't realize this, but his son, little Romeo, had a thing going on at the Titan Stadium, and it was like a football camp or something. So he was just coming in trying to find some white t-shirts. So man, somebody told him about Sam's clothing store downtown Nashville. So man, this man comes in, and it's so crazy, man. And this is the fun. I'm gonna shut up about it, but this is the funniest thing. So, you know that he came in. He was the first person in, and nobody recognized him. I said, "Oh shit, that's Master P." So everybody like, "What?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, that's Master P." And so we start getting like these little tricklings of our customers coming in, and this one dude just recognized him off the rip, and he was a homeless dude. He said, "Oh shit, it's Master P." He said, "Hey, look here, Master P, man. I need a little money." Master P pulls out a knot like this, man. Pulls out a knot, peels off $100, and say, "Hey, be honest with me, man. What you getting ready to do with this money?" And dude told him, he said, "Man, I'm finna go get a drink." He said, "Don't kill yourself." Hand him that $100, man. Came in, bought
Man.
every 3X white T-shirt we had, which was a big ass stack of T-shirts. Bought every last one of them. Said, "Man, I appreciate y'all, man. Y'all be good."
Yo.
And yo, man, but that was just one of the very many different hip hop artists that came through the store, man. It wasn't just him. It was so many others, man, so many others.
That's history,
And it was
dog.
great, man.
Damn.
It was absolutely just such a wonderful time for me. Such a wonderful time.
Yeah, man, Sam's, man, and everything what you did as well, Malcolm. There, man. That's so much history, man. When you was talking about that at the panel, man, I was like, damn, man, that brought so many
Yeah,
nostalgic moments,
absolutely.
to as a childhood. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? That influenced me, when it comes to fashion and sneakers, man, just seeing everything in the store,
absolutely.
I'm like, damn,
Yeah,
like this is dope. You feel me?
yeah,
So, because I never seen nothing like that, as a kid, just in that Middle Tennessee
yeah,
area,
yeah,
right?
yeah. We brought something very unique and
It was
wonderful. Yeah,
crazy.
we brought something very unique and wonderful to Nashville, man. And I'm just I feel honored to just be a part of it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, man. A lot of history right there, man. And in that era as well, Malcolm, I noticed something like networking, like going to the
Yeah.
stores. You know what I'm saying? Like being in person and stuff like that, man. It was so important. It was so important, man. You don't see a lot of that. I remember like going to different stores and
Hmm.
creating like a connection with the person that worked there. And they'd be
Yeah.
like, yo, hey, Albert, we got size, 11 and a half in the Jordan
Absolutely.
4s or, in these Nike Air Force 1s and,
Yeah.
just stuff like that, man, just building those relationships and just being outside during that time frame,
Yeah.
man. Talk about just
Yeah.
that time frame, just being outside, man, and creating that network, that connection, man, with different people and stuff like that, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, man, as you know, like I said, man, I was very involved as far as with the business of hip hop as well. And
Yep.
so I was always, not gonna lie to you, man, I was always out in the street in the clubs. And one thing that I made sure of that what I did was create relationships with other people who owned
Mhm.
certain businesses. Like at one time we had a Giroux Fashion, and I
Ooh.
knew the owner of that when I knew T at Fat Caps. I made
Shout out to
myself.
T.
Yeah, yeah, my man T. I love that brother, man.
Yo.
And I made a connection with T, and all these other different little small stores, even the ones who sold bootleg stuff, man, I always made a connection
Mhm.
with those people because I was just involved in the fashion so much, but I was also like I was outside, what these kids call
Mhm.
outside. I was always outside, man. That
Outside.
was
Yep.
that was something that I was never not, you know, involved in. I was always in a
Mhm.
club. I was always doing something, and I established relationships with so many different people. And so even if it didn't have anything to do with fashion, it might have had something to do with something else. But
Mhm.
fashion always took a presence, took it, it was always a presence of whatever that I did,
Mm.
and I tried to, man, I ain't gonna lie, man, I tried to stay as fresh as I could, you know, just being out there, man. Every time I hit the scene, damn man, that's dope. What you got? Hey man, it's at the store. You know what I'm saying? It's at
Yep.
the store. Come holler at me at the store. So I made myself. Anytime I, did that again, man. Every time I went out, I made sure I looked good. I made sure I had a brand new pair of sneakers on. Made sure I had, just something that was
Yep.
dope that made people look and say, "Hey man, I know that dude. He works at Sam's clothing store." It was always like that.
Yep.
Always like that. So, man, and even when I got into, other businesses that I was doing besides Sam's, I made sure,
Mm-hmm.
yo, this is me. You know where I'm at. And to this day, man, it's funny. I'm in Clarksville, Tennessee, and people like, hey, man, did you used to work at Sam's? Yes, I did.
Yep. 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 No, yo, Malcolm, man. At the event, like you got so much love, man. Like I feel like you got your flowers during that event,
Yeah,
man.
and
And it
I
was
really
so
do.
many
I really do
people.
appreciate that. I really do. I really do.
Yeah, man. It was so much love. And one thing I love what you just mentioned, man, is like when you was outside, you was fly each time. And that's part of your
Yeah,
brand.
yeah,
So people knew like, yo, that's Malcolm right
yeah,
there. When it comes to the fly stuff, they going to
yeah.
you for advice. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely,
They going to you
absolutely.
like, what's the latest? That's your presentation.
Yeah,
That's how I feel too now. Like when I go out, Malcolm, I'm like, yo, I gotta make sure I'm fresh because
yeah,
people, that's what they know. That's part of my
yeah.
brand. And,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah,
that's something that you doing. You just doing because you just got love for it. You just want to be fly. But people
yeah,
like, yo,
yeah.
no, that's part of your brand, dog. That's who you are.
It really is, man. And every time somebody saw me, they was like, "Damn,
Yeah.
dude, you fly! Damn, dude, you fly, man!" And
Yep.
I can remember, I was somewhere, and this good friend of mine, he passed away not too long ago. His name was Ricky Stewart, and Ricky Stewart looked at me and he said, "You know what, man? I've never seen you in something twice." And I'm like, "Hey, man, I mean, I just like to get nice, man. I like to get fresh." Man, he was, I've
Yeah.
never seen you in nothing twice. Never. And so, and that's, I guess that was one of the things that was one of the perks of working at Sam's clothing store because,
Yep.
we always had really, really nice gear. And and
Yeah.
man, and like I said, I just, whenever I went out, man, I knew that I was not representing my own brand, but I was representing Sam's as well. So,
Sam's. Yeah.
I had
I
to
love that,
had
man.
to come
Love that,
fresh with it.
dog. And
Yeah, I had to
and
come fresh with it.
gotta come fresh with it, man. You had to come fresh with it, Malcolm, man. Currently, right now, Malcolm, is in Nashville and just throughout Middle Tennessee as well, but specifically in
Hmm.
Nashville, man. How do you feel about today's era, man? I know, like at the event that we mentioned, we seen a lot of young entrepreneurs, creating new
Yeah,
stuff and stuff of that, and that was dope to see that, man. But how do you feel about this current, generation just right now, just trying to push the evolution of Nashville,
yeah.
to the world?
Well, a lot of these kids, man, they're being very brave, and they're coming out
Yeah.
with a lot of different brands, and I mean, I love it, man. Because
Yeah.
you at one point in time back in the 90s, you had a couple of guys that tried to do some things, and they were trying to be creative, and some of the things might have worked out. And I'm talking about Nashville. I'm not talking about anything worldwide or nationwide, but I'm talking about Nashville, man. You had a few guys that tried to do some
Yeah.
things, and it didn't jump off like they expected it to, but still the bravery
Hmm.
was there. And now that I'm seeing
Yeah.
all of these young entrepreneurs, man, they being real brave about the stuff that they're doing, man. And I love it, man. And the one thing that I can tell you, what really fell off that I think, uh, when it started in the early 2000s the uh, was the thing of everybody looking the same. That's how it started. It started in the 2000s.
Yeah.
Everybody started looking the
Yes.
same.
Yes.
But now,
Yes.
right now, man, I really like how these kids are bringing back that creativity. That they're bringing
Yeah.
back. Hey, man, we don't want to look like everybody else, and that's amazing to me. And that's what I like about
It
right now is that it's just, man, it is
is.
really, really, really a lot of creative stuff, and it looks cool. You know, I don't wear it. I don't get out with that stuff. I just don't, cause look, man, I ain't gonna lie, man. I'm
Yeah.
60 years old, so I stick to my, Ralph Lauren polo. You know what I'm saying? I'm cool on that. But
Exactly. Yep.
and I still wear my fitteds. You know what I'm saying? I still wear my
Me
fitteds.
too.
I'm gonna always wear, my old school sneakers, my Air Force Ones, my
Man.
Shell Toe Adidas, my Air Max 95s.
Same
That stuff
here.
I'm gonna wear. I'll never
Yep.
stop wearing that. But I think that's age appropriate. I am not getting ready to
Facts.
wear a bedazzled shirt. I'm not gonna wear bedazzled jeans.
Yep.
I'm not gonna wear, crop tops. I'm not doing that. But
Yep.
I think that what these kids are doing right now, man, is absolutely
I
fabulous,
agree.
man. It's dope. It is
It,
really, really dope.
it, it really is. It opened my eyes a lot, Malcolm, because when I was at the event, I was like, damn, I was surprised. I didn't think I was going to see so much, creativity and
Yeah.
seeing these young adults and some kids, man, like
Mm-hmm.
really, using their mind and using their vision, man, and for it to come to life and for them to even to make money as well and push their brand, man, it's really
Yeah.
dope. I love that because it's like you don't have to sell a million items of clothing now. If you sell if you got a
No.
thousand people,
No.
right, dedicated, that's
Hey,
all you really need, or 500.
and
Like
I mean,
that's
that's
gonna
really all. That's
keep
really
supporting
all
you.
you need. Absolutely.
Yep.
Shout out to the girl who I can't remember her name, young lady. She had a line there called "Stupid Rich," and
Okay.
I met her in my store uh, through another young lady that works for me, and I told her to come to that event. I said, listen, you need to get your brand out there and come to this event, call this number. And I gave her Troy's
Mhm.
number. And man, to be honest with you, man, I'm glad that she did that because that actually gave her a push to do
Yep.
other events and stuff like that. So, and the line is doing from what I heard, she comes in the store sometimes and she always tells me, man, thank you. I'm doing well. And man, and it's great, man. And
That's
that's
good.
look, man, I don't want no free clothes. I don't want none of that. I just want to see
Yep.
these kids succeed. And that's the whole point of
Succeed,
it.
man.
Because, man, dude, I went from just really, man, like a hip hop kid and really got into fashion. I was doing commercials for Sam's clothing store. I mean, I was doing it all, man. Going to clubs.
Hmm.
I was hosting freestyle night events and all of that just because of me being who I was and
Well,
showing up to everything, being fresh and everything. So it just, it really was amazing for me, man, in those 90s and the early
the
2000s,
90s.
man. It was cool. It was just a big, great journey for me, man. And I
I
enjoyed every
love
minute of
that.
it.
I
Yeah,
love
I
that,
enjoyed
man.
it.
And before we go, I want to ask you this question right here, Malcolm. If you had to
Sure.
pick like an era, right? Which one would be your favorite era? What would be the best era, man? When it comes to fashion, sneakers, man, and just in hip hop as well. What would be your favorite era?
I'm not gonna lie to you, dog. The '90s, man. The
The 90s
'90s,
was
the '90s, the late '80s, the late '80s and early '90s. Man, dude, that was a time for me where,
time.
um, you know, to be honest with you, man, that's when I was coming into myself and you know seeing my father used to dress really nice, but you got to understand. So my father was born in 1923. So my father
Mhm.
he was really a dapper dude. He dressed like the gangsters in the suits and the
Yep.
fedoras and things of that nature. And so I just took that particular determination uh, and just everything to heart about fashion, and I took it from to the hip hop world. And so
Hmm.
knowing that anytime I showed up anywhere, anytime I was at work, or just any time of the day, dude, if I was going to the store, I had to have a fresh white tee on. So it was just a thing of man, this is what I do. This is my thing. This is me. And I took that whole thing from the late 80s all the way into the 90s and early 2000s. And I loved that period, man, because dude, that time was just amazing. And I'm not saying just for the sneaker culture, for the fashion. I'm saying about hip hop as a whole, and
Yeah.
the music, dude. The
The
music was
music.
so innovative. You know what I'm saying?
So
And
innovative.
and,
Yeah.
and we got hip hop. We got hip hop culture from it. We got grunge music. We got crazy ass rock
Yep.
bands. We got all of
That's
that
so
stuff
true.
that came from the late 80s
That's
all the way through the
that's
90s.
true.
You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So all of that
Yeah.
innovative music that nobody would take a chance on, but you got, people like Jimmy Iovine and, fucking the dude who ran Sony and, and all of these other little small companies, man, that just took a chance on the music and the culture. They took a chance on the culture, you know
They
what I'm
took a
saying?
chance, man.
They took a chance, and so that was the pinnacle of the 90s. That was everything to me, man, because like I said, it just brought to life so much stuff, man. So
It
much stuff.
did. It
So
did,
much
man.
stuff. And it
It
was
was.
beautiful, man. It was
It
beautiful.
was beautiful, man. The '90s was a time. The '90s was so amazing, like you mentioned, Malcolm. It had so many different, like, variations of so much creative stuff, man. Like you mentioned, even with
Absolutely.
the music overall, like,
Yeah.
with hip hop. You mentioned grunge music with Nirvana, and
Yeah.
the whole
Yeah.
scene with that, like the shows, the movies, man. It was just,
Oh my
it's a
God, man. It
time,
was
man,
just
and,
it was just everything. It was
it was
everything.
everything.
And dude, it's crazy how, you know, it's almost like a revival of how they're trying to do things right now, but you
Yes,
can't really capture
you
you can't
can't.
capture what happened in the 90s. I'm
You
sorry, you
can't,
just can't do it. I mean, from Freaknik to
man.
uh oh man, dude, that was, I mean, just being in Atlanta, Georgia during that time,
Hey,
and dude, just witnessing all of these things going on, and it's part of the hip hop culture. It's part of that
yep.
culture, and a lot of people don't know, but Nashville, and I'm gonna be honest with you now, Nashville had a big impact on things that were happening in Atlanta back in the late 80s and the early
Mm,
90s.
okay.
We had people that were DJs that were in Nashville that were living in Atlanta, that were bringing stuff that was going on in Atlanta to Nashville,
Nashville.
vice versa. They were taking things
Hmm.
in Nashville. You know,
Yep.
shout out to Carl Washington, man. He had a record company here in the late 80s, man, called Invictus Records. And
Okay.
he had a whole entertainment thing, man. We were the B-boys for his whole thing, his whole hip hop movement. And we were going to Atlanta putting on shows, and we had
So,
DJs and MCs, and man, it was just a time, man. So
time.
we had a
Yeah.
really big impact on Atlanta hip hop too. So
That's
man, it
dope.
was it was it was dope. Yeah, man, it was dope. I could tell you some stories, brother. You know what I'm saying? It was great. It was wonderful, man. And that's why I say Nashville had a big impact
Big pack.
on hip hop
They
as a whole
did. They
throughout the
did.
whole country. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Throughout the whole
man.
country.
I remember hearing, man, stories, man, recently, probably about within the past year, Malcolm, about how this is when Cash Money, when they took off, when they signed
Yeah.
that major label deal with Universal Records
Hmm.
and got that huge distribution deal.
Yeah.
They used to come to Nashville a lot and record and connect with a
Dude,
lot of people, man. So I
they
didn't know that aspect, you
yeah,
know.
they stayed in Bordeaux. They stayed out here in
Yeah.
Bordeaux. And they just, dude, I mean, I can remember my man Rambo. He was very influential in spreading
Mhm.
throughout the southeast with Cash Money and also Master P. You know
Yep.
what I'm saying?
That's,
So it was a lot of people that were in Nashville that have been influential with hip hop since
mm-hmm.
the 80s all the way
That's the
through
80s.
now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, man, it's just it's history. It's our history. And
Yes,
a lot of
history.
people just don't realize, man, and I encourage all these young cats and young women that are in the music business, hey man, learn about the culture, not just the music aspect. Learn about the culture. Learn what's going on with the dance aspect. Know what's going on with the like the visuals, man, the graffiti art, man. Know what's going on with the music. Know what's going on with the voices of hip hop. Know about your MCs, about your your DJs. But
Yeah,
most
no.
importantly, learn about the history of everything, and I mean everything, man. Fashion, the culture of hip hop in Nashville, man, because that's very, very important. Very important. And I'm not
Yeah,
saying,
yeah, that's
I'm not
important.
saying people got to learn about me, but hey, man, me and my crew, we were very influential, man, in everything, every
Yeah,
aspect that was a
man.
part of the sneaker culture and the fashion culture and hip hop as a whole in Nashville.
Yeah,
So
man,
you know,
I agree with that, man, so much, man. The history, gotta learn the history, man. And that's something that I'm really huge on the history. And I feel like, man, like the old saying, you won't be able to know your future if you don't know the past, if you don't know the history
absolutely,
of it. That's
absolutely,
so
absolutely.
good. And before we go, Malcolm, man, I want to shine a spotlight, man. I know you in Clarksville, you got the store Urban Trends, if I'm not mistaken, man. Tell people more
Yes,
about it, man,
yes.
before we close out. For real, man. That's
So
dope.
urban trends, man. What we're doing here, man, is we're trying to set a precedent, man. We're trying to make sure that
Mhm.
all these young cats, man, come to our store, man. Look, we've got really really good deals, man. We've got a lot of different lines that's coming out and upcoming as well. And man, what we're doing is we're trying to change the landscape of fashion and not only in Clarksville, but even in Nashville as well. We're planning on trying to get some more stores
Mhm.
open, man, because we want to we want to service the people, man. And I know, right now, I get it. The economy is it's crazy right now. It's pretty wild, but that's why, man. We do really good deals at the store, and we always have sales and things of that nature, man.
Okay.
If you're ever in the Clarksville area, man, just come holler at me. My name is Malcolm. I'm always there, man. We also got a girl named Callie. We got a girl named T. We got another cat named Malik. We got another young man named Jabari. And man, look, they do very, very well. The owner is Tommy Dabbit. I'm sorry, Tommy. Tommy, I met Tommy when he was 16 years old. His father had Nino's. I don't know if anybody knows about Nino's, but Nino's was another fashion staple that was great in Nashville back in the late '80s and the
Mm.
early '90s. Um, and then Tommy, his dad retired, so Tommy kind of took over, and now we got Urban Trends, and so man, it's a small store, but it's great. We've got
That's great.
man, we got 10 different lines, 10, 13 different lines in there. Man, and it's
Yep.
fun, man. And I love it, man. I'm never gonna stop doing this. I
I
stopped for a
love that,
while,
man.
but now, my
Yeah.
heart is back in it, man. And this is something that I've always just been a part of, man. For
Part of
this is my probably this is going on almost 40 years now, man. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, that's a
Yeah,
blessing,
man, it's a
dog. For
blessing, man.
real,
I love
man.
it,
It
man.
really
I
is,
really do. I
man.
love it. I love fashion. And I'm a little older now, so like I said, some things I ain't gonna wear, but still, man, I love fashion, man, and I love it. I
Love it.
love it to the death of me, man. I think
Yeah.
everything out there is dope. And man, and let's get to it, man. Y'all come and see me if you can.
Definitely, man. For real. If I'm in the Clarksville era, man, I'm gonna definitely, man, check it
Yeah,
out,
come
man.
check it out.
Urban
Come check it
Urban
out.
Trends for everyone, man, for
Yeah,
sure, man.
absolutely.
Check that out. Man, I love that, man. And thank you once again, Malcolm, man. Man, appreciate
Oh
everything,
man,
bro. Definitely gonna connect, man, some more,
that's what's
bro.
up. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, man.
Thank you for
Yeah,
having
for
me. I
sure, man.
appreciate it.
Anytime,
Yeah,
man. You're welcome anytime on the show,
that's cool.
dog. So thank you for everything,
That's cool.
man. And thanks to everyone for tuning in today's episode of Yo, It's the Kicks. And everyone, peace and love and live life.
All right, peace, y'all.
All right,
Peace.
peace.